How's it going, YouTube? RoboSwitch here, bringing you guys a finals match. This time it is me on the right. I am playing the same purple Cherubimon list that I played in the video against the blue hybrid with the yellow base, and then my opponent is playing Antibody. He's got a few little differences. One that really comes up in this match that you'll see in a little bit that some Antibody lists don't run. But without further ado, let's go ahead and hop into the game. So here, I think both of us end up mulliganing our hands, and we're still not in the best situation. My opponent plays the Coda, grabbing the Cherubimon, so they do finally get the rookie. Here, I play Digivolve into the Bushi, playing the Analog Youth, grabbing the Rihimon, trashing my Reinforce and my Koichi, which isn't really the best because I kind of hoped for another purple Digimon because I'm about to follow that play up. Just go ahead, give them their 3. Anyway, they're going to play the Mat, but I cannot grab anything. You can't grab Tamers off of Mat's effect. It has to be purple Digimon or an option card. So here with the rookie, my opponent will go ahead, Digivolve into the Cherubimon in the back. Here playing the Black Memory Boost, you see there they hit 3 of their top end. So, and it's nice to see the Cherubimon, or the Cherubimon go to the bottom, I should say right here, where they're going to take the Cherubimon. We already saw a Cherubimon go to the bottom, so we're really just hoping that he doesn't have the 3rd one in hand. But we'll just go ahead, give me my 3 Digivolve up into the Cherubimon, swinging with the Bushi. Bushi does live into the Crack Rat, swinging, go ahead, Digivolve up to the Rihimon on top of the Mat, swing in, really hoping the Rihimon dies. It unfortunately does not, because we do kind of want to have that Mat replayed out, just trying to get some extra aggression, keep him out on the field, being able to recycle your Digimon, like I could have recycled the Lowimon or the Rihimon, but unfortunately we did not die there. We lived on just 1k over. So here I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do. I do have another Mat in hand, so I don't really want to give him 4 memory, but we go ahead, get the benefit, play out the Mat. No recovery, unfortunately, but we do still get the memory tamer on board. So my opponent does end up not having the Cherubimon, which is pretty strong for me because they go up into the Volkmon. I don't have anything suspended, so they won't get the extra security attack, but they do have the Cherubimon that we saw earlier, and since I did pass them to 4 with the memory boost, they are able to go up to 3 memory, Digivolving into the Cherubimon. If they had another Dorumon, then maybe that wouldn't have mattered in the long run, but here it is unfortunate. They will go ahead, swing in, adding underneath the Cherubimon, popping the Bushi since it does have 4 sources underneath, drawing a card and gaining a memory from the Cherubimon. Swinging in, it does live. We hit the Kaiser and trash or insecurity. And here my opponent trying to think about what he wants to do. You can see there he runs the Zubagon Punch. So what I'm kind of thinking here is that my opponent will I haven't seen the list yet. This is the first game, but I'm not sure if a Zubagon Punch is in the list. Always worried to see it. But here he goes ahead, plays down the Dorumon, passing to my 3, grabbing the Antibody in Alphamon, and then it's good to see the Grumblemon go to the bottom of the deck. So here we swing in with the Rihimon. We do hit the Grumblemon, thankfully, so now we don't have to worry about Grumblemon quite as much. They might be running 3, but you never know. But we'll go ahead, use the Deathclaw, good target, so that we can pop the Dorumon, and then we'll be able to replay out the Mat, grabbing back the Lowimon, Digivolving the pre-existing Mat into another Lowimon. After we have suspended Analog Youth to gain the memory, Digivolving up into a Kaiser. You don't really want to waste your level 4 hybrids if you can avoid it, but here it is nice because we do just straight up get rid of the Cherubimon, basically resetting our opponent's board down with just the Coda. We do have a Digimon in Raising as well with 2 Tamers on board, so now our opponent has to potentially worry about lethal if we have something like a Blinding Ray, or if the Koichi dies to an early check, then it gives us the extra memory to go up into another level 4 hybrid and potentially end game next turn. So here it does look like my opponent whiffs on the rookie, but they do have the Dark Tyrannomon, so since I'm going to 3 already, they're going to just go ahead, hard play the Dark Tyrannomon. We'll Digivolve our Koichi after raising up the Bushi, swinging in, trying to bait out a block, doesn't block, but it's understandable because there's a good risk that he could die in security, and he may want to keep it up to go up the stack or get rid of this Bushi. It lives to the Cherubimon, like I said, in security. I kind of wanted it to die so I could gain a little bit more memory, but instead we go ahead, pass turn with the Bokomon, just taking another level 4 hybrid and a Analog Youth to hand, passing our opponent back to their 3 memory on their side. So at this point, our opponent's looking in kind of a dire situation. They have one blocker. You can see they kind of want to Digivolve up into it. They do have the Megadramon here, so they are able to get blocker if they go up into a level 6, which we know they have. They had at least an Alphamon, but here they do have the Doragoromon. So this is a Doragoromon with blocker. I do have 3 swings on board, so we'll go ahead, swing in with the Kaiserleomon, swing in with the Bushi. It does get blocked, swing in Bokomon for game. Going ahead, taking game 1. So into game 2, we'll go ahead. My opponent lets me go first, not uncommon for a stack deck like Antibody. We'll Digivolve into the Salamon and Racing, playing the Koichi, getting rid of the Lucamon. Pretty solid turn 1. One of the best turn 1s you can have, because it's just nice to get the Lucamon out of hand. It's nice to have it in hand because you want it in trash. So with a Koichi, it's a pretty good starting turn combo. Passing our opponent over to 3 memory, they'll go ahead, climb up into the Dorumon, into the Dark Tyrannomon, and here if they have the level 5, they're going to be able to choke me at 1, keeping me to have to either, you probably give them 3 memory by playing another Tamer, 3 or more memory by playing another Tamer, or a 3-cost Digimon, which we do here. We play the Bokomon, and unfortunately we hard whiff on the Bokomon, only really grabbing the Analog Boy. While it isn't a whiff per se, it isn't really what the Tamer you want to have in this deck when you play Bokomon and you're missing your purple Tamers in the first place. So here our opponent will go ahead and raise up the Doragreymon, Digivolving it into the Doragoromon. So now it's a big body on field. The one issue that my version of the deck has is it has a hard time dealing with level 6s, so he's pretty safe to have the level 6 sitting on field. We swing in with the Salamon. Unfortunately, we do hit into the Zubagon Punch, so now I know my opponent has Zubagon Punch. I don't believe, we saw it in hand last turn, but I never actually physically saw it when I was playing the match. So here we'll go ahead, play the Analog Boy, and then grab the Lowimon, trashing the rest. I'm pretty sure I did not have a hybrid in my hand at this point, so I go ahead swinging with the Bokomon anyway, but if I did, I don't know if I would have Digivolved in for free, because then I would have still lost the Tamer that I possibly needed, but then also it could have died if I didn't swing in from this following turn where the Doragoromon swings in, and then he will delete anything that is 2 Digimon that are 5 costs or less after tucking another Digimon underneath. Swinging in for 2 checks, it will go ahead and survive hitting 2 Rebellionmons, 2 Digimon I would have loved to have in this situation, but unfortunately for me, I only run 2, and now they are both in the trash, so that's not really going to be something that we're going to see the rest of this match. Or game, I should say. So here my opponent Digivolves into the Zord to Feet, decides to take out the Analog Youth. I still think the best play here, he told me afterwards that he just valued not having the extra memory gain from the Analog Youth, but I don't have any way to go up, so I still think the Koichi is the best target here, because getting rid of it means I can't Digivolve into the level 4 hybrid that he knows I have in hand from the Analog Youth search. So here I'm pretty much dead to rights. We go ahead, just Blinding Ray, burn a security, Digivolve up into the Rihimon. Here, I could swing in, hope to die, and then just replay out the Koichi. So here I'm trying to go back and forth. You see I have the Cherubimon in hand, but Cherubimon doesn't really do anything. I don't have any other Tamers in trash. I have like 1 or 2 in hand. So there's almost no point for me to go ahead and play the Cherubimon, just pass my opponent over to 2 memory, and then I just die to a Zubagon Punch. So here we swing in with the Rihimon. It does in fact live. I kind of wanted it to die so I could gain a little bit more memory, but one thing that I should have just done right here is play the Deathclaw. I delete the Rihimon, so I'll stay at 0 memory. I could have potentially kept it on my turn by not deleting the Rihimon. Deathclaw is a May effect, so I could have just not deleted it and left the Rihimon on field and choked my opponent to 1 memory. That really wouldn't have done much for me unless they hit a Tamer out of security. So here I just do the best I can. I play down the mat, I grab back the level 4 hybrid, I discarded the Kari off of the Rihimon, the Koichi that I replay off the Rihimon. My opponent goes ahead, they raise up the Toy Agumon. Here, we already know they have Zubagon. Zubagon's going to put him to 16k, give him security attack +1, blocker, reboot, the whole 9. We'll swing in, we hit nothing, and pretty much just scoop. We're going to go ahead and go on to game 3, because I can't really do anything at that point. Have the rookie, they're going to go ahead and swing for game. So I will go ahead and warn you guys, there is going to be a lot of cuts in this game. There was a lot of thinking going on. This was the finals match, and we just wanted to make sure that we did the best we can, and even then there are still a few misplays on my part, but we'll go over those when we get there. I realize them, of course, always afterwards, but both of our hands are, I think, kind of crusty here at the start. So my opponent will go ahead, play down the memory boost. They're trying to decide what they have. They have rookies, and a level 4 and a level 5, but from the fact that they just play the memory boost, they're probably whiffing on the rookies. So they go ahead, take the reboot Toyagumon. I'll go ahead, Digivolve into the Bushi, playing the Boko, going to 0, grabbing the Mimi and the Rihimon, I believe is what it was, and then we'll just go ahead and play the Mimi past my opponent over to 2 memory, keeping them as low on the memory as possible since they do have the memory boost on field already. So here my opponent will Digivolve up into the Toy Agumon, Digivolving into the Dark Tyrannomon they have, putting themselves to 1. So here I'm just kind of hoping that they don't have a level 5, but if you look in their hand, it looks like they do. In fact, they go ahead, go up into the Dorugreymon, which isn't really good for me. Early aggression is one thing that this deck struggles with, especially if I don't see my Tamers fast enough. So we'll swing into Security, hitting a Dorugreymon, or Dorugoromon. We'll go ahead, Digivolve up into the Lowimon for free, Digivolving into the Rihimon, swinging in, hitting another Dorugoromon, and this will go ahead, kill the Rihimon. I'll be able to replay out the Mimi from the effect of Rihimon, and then we'll go ahead, play a Mat, and then grab the level 4 hybrid. So it's good to see 2 Dorugoromons down. Really lowers the chance of us seeing it, but if you can't tell here, my opponent does in fact have the 3rd of the 4th Dorugoromon, and I'm pretty much just going to go ahead and lose my Bokomon here. I was thinking I should swing with the Bokomon last turn, but I just didn't think about it because I thought surely they won't have another Dorugoromon for me to worry about. But fortunately for me here, my opponent does get a little greedy, goes ahead and plays the, I can't remember what the option is called, but it basically, for every source in one of your X-Antibody Digimon, they go ahead and get to draw a card for each source. Metal Cannon is the name of the card. So I do not lose the Bokomon, which is just really solid here. We'll go ahead, we'll hatch the egg, Digivolve into the Salamon, Digivolve up into the Lowimon for free with the Bokomon. Swinging with the Bokomon, it does die, we're not really worried about that. Swinging with the Rihimon, and this does unfortunately hit the Coda. The whole thing I'm trying to do with my opponent is keep them below memory to go up into something like Exhort Defeat to delete my Digimon, but hitting the Coda out of security is just very, very painful here. It also keeps us from losing this Rihimon, which I did want to cycle to have the Mimi on field so that I would be able to go ahead and stop a Zubagon punch for a little bit less. If I did pass them to like 2 memory, Mimi would have been able to stop that. But here they are at 3 memory because of the Coda, which is looking pretty rough for me. So we go ahead, we play the Koichi and just draw and discard another Koichi. So at this point, my opponent can't swing and just delete the Rihimon, which I don't really think they want to worry about doing. They Digivolve the Dorumon back in the back and just go ahead, Digivolve up into the Zort Defeat, popping the Mat. And then here, I still am a little skeptical on this one where they go ahead and delete the Rihimon, and then I'm able to play the Mat back out and then grab the Rihimon back. But here, my opponent has the X-Antibody, the Omni X-Antibody, a card that I am not prepared for. I haven't seen many lists run this. I understand why they run it, especially if they run something like Zort Defeat, but it requires a lot of pieces. I don't know if he runs 2 or 3, or 1 or 2, or whatever the ratios are, but him seeing it really does put a whole damper on this, because at this point, this Omnimon does have 6 sources, and while it's not as many as an X-Antibody deck can do, it is very hard for me to deal with. So I can't really remember here if I had enough level 4 hybrids in hand or if I was holding on to one. You can see I have the Susanomon in hand, but I don't have enough hybrids in hand and in trash at the same time, Tamers and hybrids, to go ahead and just drop the Susanomon, which I think is what I was trying to do when I played the Koichi, to get a little bit more cycle. Here we swing with the Salamon, hoping to get to bait out a attack stopper from the Omnimon so it has less sources, and he does in fact do that. And here I Digivolve into the Kaiser Leomon to get a little bit more draw, try to keep on finding more hybrids, and try to bait out if he will swing in with the Omnimon X to delete the Kaiser Leomon so I can gain a memory. Just as a forewarning, it's about this point that we get a whole bunch of skips because my opponent and I take a little bit of time thinking over our moves, making sure we do it the best we can. So he does in fact swing, deleting the Kaiser. I do hit another Lowimon in trash, so it does help fill up my trash a little bit. And we'll go ahead, get the extra security attack because it is an X-Antibody in its traits, so he does get the effect off the Dorugreymon. And here my opponent goes ahead and just evolves all the way up into the Dorugreymon. We do a little bit of memory messing around. I mess with it, then he messes with it. He adds a Dorumon to the sources, so he Digivolves, passes him on my side to 2, but then he resolves the effect of the 2 Dorumons, that with the one he added and the one he already had, to go to 3 or back to 0. And then here he does have, if you can see there in his hand, he does in fact have the level 5 to go into with another Doru Greymon in the sources. This is a threat that I really don't it's hard to deal with both the X Antibody with Reboot and the Alphamon at the same time, so I'm kind of between a rock and a hard place at this point. So here we go ahead, we hatch Digivolve into the Patamon, trying to think about what I want to do. I do have the level 4 hybrid, so I Digivolve up into level 4 hybrid here, swing in. I'm kind of hoping he lets it through, but at the same time it is nice if he doesn't let it through, because then he just loses all of his sources, so he can't stop any more attacks with the Omni. But this does give me a little bit less memory for the Kaiser Leomon here. So at this point, I do, this is the first misplay that I have right here. I go ahead and I activate the effect of Susano to add the hybrids and tamers to the bottom of my deck, but I use it on the mat. I should have used it on the Kari. If you use it here on the Kari, you do get to, like, you don't get the effect of the Kari, but you do get to keep the Memory Tamer on field, which is really what I needed, because at this point, the Memory Tamer is the biggest part. I think I still saved a Rihimon and another level 4 hybrid in my hand. I'm not so much worried about the fact that Omnimon is going to go ahead and delete this Susanomon, but because I know it's probably going to go away. It is a threat, so he's probably just going to delete the Susanomon over something like the Salamon, because he doesn't want me to get the recovery or the memory off the Koichi. But he goes ahead, drops a Zubagon Punch so he can get the extra security tech, does in fact take out the Susanomon. I'll go ahead and suspend the Kari. Like I said, doesn't really matter. It's not pertinent in this situation. I really should have just use it on top of the mat, because the extra 1 memory here doesn't stop what my opponent is about to do, which is play this Tsunarizamon and then go into a blocker, which is worst case scenario that I have. But it wouldn't have stopped anything. He probably would have done the same exact play even if it was a mat on field, and I wouldn't be screwed here by not having the extra memory. So at this point, I do just go ahead. I have 3 swings on board. He has 1 blocker. 2 blockers, I should say, because Zubagon Punch is active. So I'm trying to think about what I'm going to do. I go ahead and I think about playing Deathclaw. I decide not to. Just trying to think about the correct order in which to attack. There's really not a correct order. We swing in with the Patamon. We'll go ahead and get the draw off the Upamon. My opponent will go ahead and block, because at this point, the Kaiser Leomon no longer has retaliation, and I don't believe I have another Kaiser in hand. Here, we will just go ahead and Deathclaw to get rid of the blocker. It effectively does the same thing, but it keeps him, if he, from having to deal with the block, for me to have to worry about the blocker swinging in the next turn. And here, I think about a swinging with the Kaiser. It's still not the worst thing. It's good to get that last security check. If I would have just had the mat, I would have just been able to swing in without any worry and then go for game here. But without having the mat, we swing in the Rihimon, or the Kaiser Leomon lives. Right here is the other second big misplay that I have from the whole event. I could have stopped a lot of this if I would have just Digivolved this Kaiser Leomon into the remaining Rihimon in hand. I forgot that Omnimon X's on attack to delete a Digimon is a mandatory effect. So here I play a Bokomon. The second I let go of the Bokomon, I already know I'm in trouble, because if I play the Rihimon, then I can force him to delete the Rihimon, gain the memory, play back out of the mat. I'll be able to stop the memory gain with the Kari, and then I would have been able to follow it up the next turn, because the Kari would have gained a memory, the on deletion effect of Koichi would have been able to gain me a memory, and then he wouldn't have the memory to, at this point, as you can see, when he swings in and goes ahead and Digivolves into the Grumblemon because he has enough memory, he would not have been able to do that, because the memory would have been only at 1. So it's kind of another thing. This was the first bigger tournament like locals that I had gone to playing the deck, so I didn't think about a lot of this. But the deck has otherwise performed very well. This was the finals match. My opponent did do pretty well to work with my misplays, work around my misplays. He did have the Grumblemon. He had all the pieces he needed. So big props to him. It's always good to see X Antibody win. I would have loved to win, bring Church home, but X Antibody's always got a place in my heart. Other than that, guys, that'll be the end of the video. Sorry about that last section. I recorded it all in one bit. I had a lot to say, so if there was a little bit of rambling there and you want me to go over it, just mention it down in the comments below. But other than that, if you did like the video, be sure to leave a like. Subscribe to the channel if you're interested in seeing more of these videos in the future. I'll leave the deck list for the Cherubi list at the end of this video. I don't have the X Antibody list, unfortunately, from my opponent. I'll try to get it for him the next time if you guys really want to see it. But all that being said, again, comment down below if you have any other questions, leave a like on the video, subscribe, and I hope you guys have a good rest of your week. Peace.